Inflation continues to go up, and it's probably not going to change. That means our thinking has to change to be able to keep up with it and to be able to afford the things that we want. In this video, we're going to talk about the things that I do differently than mainstream, why I do them, and if any of those tips help you, feel free to take them at will. Let's get started. Welcome, I'm Bonita from Pennies to Dollars, and I am currently wintering in South Texas. I took an early retirement at the end of October of 23. I am now 58. So we're going to talk today about some of the things that I do to make ends meet and how I determine what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do that's mainstream. If you've followed me for any length of time, you know that I'm the daughter of Depression-era parents who were raised by Dust Bowl parents and Depression-era grandparents all through that era. And so I was raised with a lot of different ideas about what money should be spent on, how it should be saved, how it should be made, how you should use credit, all of those things. And they have got me to this point where I was able to retire with less than $100,000 in savings. They say that you need $1 million. I don't believe that. If you know how to live frugally and you know how to stretch your dollar, cook from scratch, do all of the things that save you money, it's not necessary. I haven't found that to be the case at all. I'm living comfortably, and we have a budget of $21,500 a year that we spend, including Christmas presents for a large family and vacations. Now, I'm going to share with you some of the data that I acquired to do this video, and one of them is to go over the poverty level right now in the US. So I'm going to flip to that screen and we'll go over that together. So as you can see, this is taken directly off of healthcare.gov, where you can get the insurance that is offered through the marketplace. This is their 2023 income and their 2024 income to determine poverty levels in the US. For individuals, the annual amount in 2024 is $15,060 to be considered to be low income. For a family of two, $20,440. For a family of three, $25,820. For a family of four, $31,200. And I raised a family of 8, which I always look at that since I raised 6 kids, and the annual amount there is $52,720. And as you can see from the bottom, if you have more than 8 people, you can calculate that in at an additional $5,140 for each extra person. So this is the US poverty level amounts. So let's talk about this and talk about some of the expenses that go into some of our income and why I choose to skip some of the normal things that people spend their money on, because I believe that it makes it too difficult to survive in this economy. So I have lots of ways that I save money that are unusual compared to other people. Right now, we paid for November through April for our camper to be down here in South Texas, and then I'm going to take it home. A lot of people paid for October through March, and a lot of my neighbors and a lot of the park are going home mid-March, in March. And the reason they are is because they're going home to do their taxes. I have always done my taxes myself. We owned 2 businesses and I did our taxes. I've done taxes for friends and family. I've never paid anyone to do my taxes ever. In fact, I went into H&R Block one time and had them review just to see if I was missing anything, and they offered me a job. So I feel pretty confident in doing my own taxes, and that's one of the reasons that I'm staying here through the end of April, is because I can do them right from my camper. I brought things with me. My husband brought the W-2s when he visited. I don't need to go home to have an accountant do my taxes. I know a lot of people that don't make very much money and their tax forms are very, very simplified, and yet they still pay someone to do their taxes. So that is one way that I save money. My dad had a 10th grade education. In fact, he dropped out during his sophomore year, and he always did his taxes, including the additional pages for the farm, because he was a farmer. So that's something that I grew up never spending money on, and I still don't spend money on. I also hang my clothes to dry even here in the park. I bought a $12 drying rack off of Facebook Marketplace that I brought with me. I wait for days that are not humid, days that are warm, days that are not rainy. I wash my clothes and then I hang them to dry. So it's $1.25 a load, and I've done about a load every week to week and a half while I've been here for 15 weeks. So, I mean, if you add that up, that's a half a tank of gas money right there that I've saved by using my drying rack. It is $3 to wash a load of laundry. I'm not going to pay additionally just to dry my clothes. I can do that easily and let nature take its course. I have clotheslines at home. In fact, I love hanging clothes on the line. I find it therapeutic. I find it relaxing. It gives me an excuse to get outside. I love being outside. So that's something I do no matter where I am. If I'm at the lake, if I'm here at the park, if I'm home, I hang my clothes on the line. I have a dryer, but I rarely use it unless it has rained and rained and rained, and we're just really getting backed up with laundry. We just continue to wear what we have. We have plenty of clothes, and unless we're running really low on something, I just wait for the weather to change. So every experience in my life has brought me here, just like that background of my dad. My dad was a farmer. My grandparents on both sides were farmers. My dad never had health insurance until he got Medicare when he was old enough to receive that. So I grew up with no insurance. My entire family did. And my dad paid private pay for things. In fact, I remember when my second oldest brother was born, my dad said he got a bill from the hospital for like $12 or $15 for my brother being delivered. And he said that was too damn much. And he was still mad about it. But I have had accidents happen, and a lot of people worry about me not having health insurance. That's something I don't worry about because I've lived most of my life without it. I have had some jobs where I did have it, or I could afford it at the jobs and it was a good deal. I've had other jobs where I paid for it and then I ended up using it thinking, oh, I have insurance, so this is a good time to get this done or this done. And then I ended up with tons of co-pays and medical bills that I had to pay off. So I'm not a huge believer in that. I feel like it encourages me to go to the doctor more often, maybe when I could get by without, and I end up spending more money than I anticipated because I have that idea, well, I have insurance, and that's almost sunk my ship a couple of times. I've broke my arm without insurance. I've broke my leg without insurance. And if you don't know this, if you don't have insurance, there are applications you can fill out at the hospital and they will give you a reduced rate, which will equal about what your copay would be if you had insurance. So I was able to pay the copay on my leg, on my arm. I even had surgery on my arm. And those things I was able to make payments and pay off because the copays equaled about what they would have if I had insurance. So I'm not concerned about that. I know those programs exist. They charge you more if you have insurance. In fact, when I even wrecked my car hitting a deer, I went to get it repaired, and the guy at the car shop told me, if you had insurance, I would charge you extra because you have insurance. But since you don't, this is the discounted rate. So I only pay for liability only, even on my car, because I found that that is the case. And I just pay out of pocket if I need to get something repaired, like I hit a deer. So a little bit of numbers on the insurance. If you're coming unglued about the fact that I don't have insurance, which a lot of people do. For car insurance, the average full coverage for a year is $1,588 in the US. The 5 cheapest states for car insurance is New Hampshire at $78, Maine at $83 per month, Ohio at $84 per month, Virginia at $89 per month, and Idaho at $93 a month. The average in the US is about $130 per month, and Kansas, even though we're considered to be one of the cheaper states, our insurance average for car insurance is $127 a month. I currently pay $36 a month for liability only. So see how much I am saving by only having liability insurance, even based on the average in Kansas. For health insurance, family health insurance went up 47% since 2013. The average insurance increased 7% in 2023. The average single person pays $8,435 a year in health insurance, and the average family pays $23,968 per year in health insurance. Now, I am not advocating for you to go without health insurance. I'm just explaining to you why I don't have it, why I don't believe in having it, why I don't purchase it. So those are my personal decisions. You can do whatever you think is best for your family. But me coming from a background where we didn't have it, and I haven't had it most of my life, that influences my decision even now. Now, I have to tell you, with me growing up with Depression era parents and grandparents, this was during the biggest stock market crash in history. This was during the Depression. This was before the FDIC. This was before Social Security insurance started. So my parents and grandparents did not trust banks. I was raised in a household where money was saved and it was hidden. This was very common, especially in our area. I think it was very common throughout the country at that time. Even when my grandmother passed away, we found $300 hidden in the bottom of her hamper because she was saving to have a utility room added on. My parents would save money, roll them in coils of $100 bills, shove them in vents down in the floor, and you'd have to lay there with your arm stretched as far as you could to reach the jar with the money saved. This was normal. My sister-in-law's grandmother passed away, and they had tons of Sears catalogs that they were burning in big piles. And at some point, they picked up one and money started falling out of the pages because she had stuck money in the pages of the things she wanted to order, and then she didn't order them. And they had burnt tons of these magazines, realizing that there had been money stuck in these catalogs. So this is the era I was raised in, where you saved your cash and you had it accessible if you needed it, and you hid it. People were known to hide money in jars and bury them in their yards. This was normal. So when you look at me and you say, wow, she really is old-fashioned, that was a big portion of my upbringing, was with those concepts. And so that's why I lean that way, because I saw that it worked for them. I was raised to save cash and to save money, and I was raised to not risk my money, which is why I don't invest. It's why I don't have stock. My dad and my aunt were 16 and a half years apart. So they believed really differently. My dad was raised during that stock market crash. My aunt was raised and born in the 40s. So my aunt invested money in the stock market. And then when that 2008 crash happened, she lost so much money. She said she was just sick to her stomach every day, even looking at the numbers, that she had to just stop looking at the numbers because she had lost so much money. So even in that 16-year span between him being born and her being born, see how the philosophies changed. So that's what I'm trying to convey to you, is this is where I'm coming from, is this is the type of parenting that I had, and this was the kind of money culture and training I had. Dad didn't have a credit card. He didn't believe in credit card. He didn't believe in owing people money, and he believed in saving for something before he bought it. So that's where I have come from, and that's my background. So that's why you'll hear me say some things that are different on this channel than you're going to hear other places. A lot of people have their grandparents that were from the Depression, but my parents were from the Depression. So I'm one of the elite few rare people that are still out there that were raised with some of these concepts. Other things that I do not buy that are very normal are like potting soil. I don't think I've ever bought a bag of potting soil in my entire life. I do compost things and try to enrich my soil, but I use my own soil from my yard. Now, I understand if you live somewhere you can't dig, or if you live somewhere where you have like that orange dirt or orange clay that doesn't produce very well. But where I live, we have really dark, rich soil. And me adding the compost of like the eggshells and any like onion bottoms or banana peels or anything like that to the soil and let that enrich the soil, that has been plenty for me. And if I need something else, I always have the donkey poo, which is great. My aunt used to drive out from the city just to get the sheep poo to put on her garden because it was so great. So I've never bought any type of manure, any type of fertilizer. That's what I do, and it works. I don't buy ice. I have ice cube trays, which they still sell those at Dollar Tree. I don't have an ice maker. I just make my own ice, use my own ice. It's always fresh that way. It doesn't take up a ton of space in my freezer by having a big bag. If I have company coming, I'll get out like a storage bag or a Ziploc bag and make it a few days ahead of time so I have enough to get through that event. But I don't buy ice unless maybe we're camping or we're traveling. But even then, I will take frozen items, put them in the ice chest to keep stuff cold for that trip. When I came down here to Texas, I had items that were frozen at home that I brought with me. I put them in the ice chest. I filled it up with the other cold items. Things were still frozen when I got here. So I didn't buy any ice, even for the trip down here. I don't go to thrift shops. I don't go to yard sales. And that may sound really weird if I'm somebody that saves money. A lot of people buy a lot of things at those places. And a lot of people get some really good deals. But I'm at a point in my life where I don't need anything, and I don't need the temptation of buying more stuff when I've been trying to downsize over the last few years. So I don't need that temptation. There's nothing that I need. If there was something that I needed, I might maybe peruse around and look for that item. But as I always tell my husband, I wasn't born with a lot of patience. And I feel like people that go to yard sales and thrift shops have a lot more patience than I do. I'm one of those get in there, get what I need, get out, know what I'm going to get before I go, know what the sales are before I go, check the clearance areas, and get out of the store. And so I'm not one of those people that want to like dig through racks or have that thrill of the hunt. I don't want to spend that kind of time. I just don't have the patience to spend that kind of time looking for things. And so I save a lot of money that way because I just remove that temptation. We had a garage sale last weekend here in the park. As soon as I opened my screen door for the morning, the first thing I heard was two ladies out on my street say, "I just bought a bunch of stuff I don't need." And I thought, that is exactly why I don't garage sale, because I would be tempted to buy a bunch of things that I don't need that were probably a good deal that would take up even more space when I'm trying to downsize, and that would defeat my purpose. So I don't do that. If I do need something, I will shop around, I will check prices, and I will try to get the best deal for the best quality of the item that I need. but I just won't buy a bunch of extra things because they're a good deal, because I just don't want that kind of space being taken up in my home anymore. So inflation, it is what it is, but we have to adjust to it. It's not going to change, so we have to. Now, I have stayed very old-fashioned in my thinking. Sometimes it helps to go back to be a little bit more old-fashioned in some of the thinking, because all of the modern things we have nowadays cost so much more than they did even when I was raising kids in my 20s. We didn't have cell phones. That's an extra expense. We didn't have internet. That's an extra expense. Both of those things are given now that we have to have them. And just having those two things can raise your budget every single month. And so those are some of the things that I know are going to cost me more than they used to. So I have to allow for that stuff. I take full responsibility for my choices. I take full responsibility for my income, my expenses, and I make sure that I have enough to cover what I need. I may still do some side gigs here and there. I do have some things in mind for maybe this summer or this fall that might just be little short work gigs. And that would be more for something for fun and maybe a little extra spending money, but it wouldn't be something that I have to do to get by. I'm at a point in my life where I can choose what I want to do, and I know I can still get by. And having that option is wonderful. And yet I've also done that on less than $100,000 in savings. So there is a comfort in being out of the loop. If you stay in the loop and you do all of the things that everybody else is doing that is struggling and in debt and maybe owns too much that they can't afford, then we're all going to be in that same situation. But we have to do things differently if we don't want that situation. That situation seems to be more common than not. So I choose to be uncommon. I choose to do things that I know work for me, that have worked for me over my 58 years, that have got me to the point where I'm able to retire when many of my friends are older than me and still working and don't know if they'll ever be able to retire because they haven't been able to put back any money. I'm not going to compare myself and say, well, what they're doing is right and what I'm doing is wrong, or vice versa. We all have to choose what we think is best for us and what is going to get us to the place that we want to be. And where I want to be is no stress, freedom, working as little as possible, doing things that I enjoy as side hustles, and concentrating on my health, my family, my home, my pets. That's what I want. And the way that I have been doing things, there is no pressure on me to do the norm. And I can't tell you how great that feels. I stopped a long time worrying about what people thought of me and what people thought I should wear or I should do or how much money I should make. And I hope that you get to that point. Some people reach it in their 30s, some in their 40s, some never reach it. But if you ever can reach out and grab a hold of that, that is the ticket to freedom right there. And then you can make the choices that are best for you without any stress. I hope this has been interesting for you. I'm thankful that you're all here today. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next video.